Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to continue with last week's sort of theme of COVID-19 fraud and look at some of the explicit fraud schemes and the impact that they had. Now, again, if you think about it, since March of 2020, Congress has provided over 4.6 trillion with a T worth of dollars to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that was from the public health crisis or to support businesses and others who are negatively impacted. And obviously, we knew that some of this money would not go to the appropriate places. But I think what some of those people didn't know was that we were going to follow up. And so a lot of times people thought this was sort of a nameless, blameless type of fraud. But we are seeing a lot of work being done in this area. And so back on November 14th, the GAO published a second different report, which is their insights from fraud schemes and federal response efforts. And so as we can imagine, right, $4.6 trillion is not a small amount of money. And as part of the CARES Act explicitly, it did require GAO to report on the federal response. And so to take responsibility for what's going on. So as of June 2023, 2,191 either individuals or entities were charged with some type of fraud, right? So whether that was a consumer scam or a relief program, they had federal fraud-related charges come to them. And at this point, 1,525 individuals or entities are facing that were facing these fraud-related charges were found guilty or liable. Not bad, right? So 2,191 cases, 1,500 of them were found guilty, right? So we are seeing a movement towards this. And in terms of funding, up to restitution of up to $60 million so far, and prison terms of close to 10 years. So we are taking this very seriously. That money was intended to do good for the economy. GAO and the various groups are working hard here. So if you haven't been following, they have a great LinkedIn page, the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, or PRAC. They were established to combat COVID-19 specific fraud. And so they have been working on building this up here and supporting law enforcement officials as they go through this. And so what I love about this is that they've been able to provide some examples of the types of fraud schemes that they have seen. And so obviously the biggest one we've really noticed is conspiracy. People weren't working isolated type of fraud. They were actually conspiring. And in one scenario, the group allegedly obtained more than $240 million of federal child nutrition program funding. And as they went through this, they created shell companies and they pretended to be providing this type of service. And so already 4 individuals have been found guilty and another 40 are still on trial at this point. So interesting, again, the size of that one. Another one is this misrepresentation, right? So 2 company owners attempted to obtain $5 million for 14 different Paycheck Protection Program loans and then 12 EIDL. And so as we go through this, they submitted falsified tax returns and other documents. And so they received $650,000 in funds and used them for purchasing a luxury car. Not exactly what it was intended for. Both have pleaded guilty and have paid $800,000 in restitution and sentenced to 2 to 3 years in prison. So again, it's not a nameless, blameless. We are going out and we are trying to figure out who is doing this and to get that money back. Mislabeling. This one's an interesting one. They claimed that they had a pesticide basically that could kill the airborne virus, except it was illegal to ship it because of the type sodium chlorine or chloride that was inside of it. And so the owner was sentenced to 8 months in prison in order to pay a total penalty of $556,000 in restitution and fines. And we all know, we've heard a lot of healthcare fraud. And this scenario was actually a licensed medical practitioner was selling homeopathic items and claiming they provided immunity to COVID. In addition, she provided false documents saying that people had been vaccinated or provided immunization records so they could go to school or work, but they were fraudulent. And so she received $74,000. People were willing to pay her in order to get these COVID vaccine documentations. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison. So the group are, they're working hard in this area, really trying to make a difference. They're estimating and they're sharing information as they go through this, and they're hoping for recovery of about $1 billion, right? So that's what they're trying to get to. We're trying to make sure that, again, $1 billion is a drop in a bucket, theoretically, when you're talking about trillions of dollars. But we can use that billions of dollars to help those who really need it. And so I think it's important when we talk about employee retention credits and we talk about non-compliance with laws and regulations, I think it's important to know that this is not just happening and there's no one who's being caught. We're seeing that the government is taking responsibility and really going out there and doing this. Separately, they've worked on a lot of unemployment fraud. And so we've done some discussions on that previously. So hopefully we can get this money to be used the way it's supposed to. All right, well, that is a wrap on this week's blog, really an extension of what we talked about last week, but we wanted to give it to you in those various pieces. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on next week's blog, which will be our last blog of 2023 as we move into the holidays. So I hope you are feeling kind of some holiday spirit right now, and you're getting ready for the end of the year right before we push into that wonderful busy season. So keep that in mind as we kind of close up shop for the year. But we have one more blog coming to you in 2023. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope to see you next week. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.